Shalom. Once again, for those of you who missed my grand return this morning, I've missed all of you. I feel like this is the first time in my pulpit rabbinate I have missed most of the summer. I was in Israel, traveling there. Then I was in Madison, Wisconsin, officiating a wedding, eating a lot of cheese, of course, while I was there as well, doing my due diligence like any lactose-intolerant Jew in Madison, Wisconsin. And then this past 2 weeks, I've been in Winnipeg, Manitoba, where the weather has been a cool 80 degrees. It's great coming back to Hotlanta here, enjoying the nice weather since I have returned. And of course, that last part of my trip was family vacation and going back to the place where my wife Amy is from, where we were married many years ago. And as we were sitting around the table with my in-laws going over some of the wonderful details surrounding our wedding planning, talking about how much we love the band, how much we love the various pieces, they reminded me of a debate that we had very, very early on in the stages of our wedding planning. I was married on May 17th, 2009. Don't ask me to tell you how many years that is. That's why I became a rabbi. I can't do math. But what I will tell you is, as we were sitting around the table, there was a debate that ensued about the nature of offering invitations. And a question and a difference in philosophy that I'm sure some of you who have either planned weddings for your children or planned weddings yourselves, perhaps even planned birthday parties for your children, have had to deal with. And that is the question of whether or not you extend an invitation to someone you know won't be able to come. And for us, this was a particularly interesting question because we decided not to get married in New York, where we were living at the time, or in Philadelphia, where my family was from, but Winnipeg, Manitoba, which involved no fewer than 2 flights to get there, and also involved, let's just say, a pretty hefty price tag on those plane tickets. I know because I just booked them recently. And so the question was, do we invite people who you know may or may not be able to come to the wedding? What we're going to do today is make this a 3-part Devar Torah series. This was the intro. After the second Aliyah, I want to hear what you all did, or in your experience, or what you think. Do you invite someone to a party whether they can or cannot come? And I'm aware there are differing philosophies. This should be an interesting conversation. Then I'm going to tie it into Torah study that we're going to do together at the end. Some of you may have an inkling of a thought, if you know what fast day is coming up next week, what we may be talking about at the end of today. But I'll leave you in suspense. For now,
Verse 1.
Okay, but first a brief interlude here. So what do you think? What's your methodology? What do you do when you have guests? Danny, I saw as the party planner in the room, I saw your hand shoot up right away. What do you do, and what do you advise people to do?
Well, I think it's important to ensure that everyone feels included. So I always suggest that invitations get sent regardless, and some people feel like that means they're fishing for a gift. But like in our case, we had family coming from Israel that we didn't want to exclude by not including them in our invitation list, but we knew because in your situation, the price and the cost to fly from Israel for a weekend is astronomical.
Yeah.
So we knew they weren't going to come, but we included them because we wanted them to know we'd be thinking of them on our day.
Okay, beautiful. Yeah, Grace. In there.
I think I would agree with what Danny said, and I think by issuing invitation, you're giving them the choice whether to go. If there's no invitation, there's no choice.
Yes, and I'll jump in and say that has happened to us here. We once were invited. We were not invited to a Saturday birthday party, right? Which makes sense in the preschool. And one of the parents went to us and said, "You know, you would never come. It's at Fuller's Park, and it's on Saturday at 2:00." And we said, "Well, we live about a third of a mile from Fuller's Park. Services go till about 12. And so he said, "Oh, well, then you can come. That would be great." Chick-fil-A was for lunch, so that posed its own set of problems. But nonetheless, we were able to go to that party because and they had assumed we weren't going to come. Great. Arlene, did you want to jump in? Yeah. Yeah, go ahead. And then I saw. inclusive. Yeah. Go ahead, Doug. Yeah.
Danny was talking about family in Israel. Well, having lived in Israel for 15 years, where all my family was still here in the States, I have two siblings here. One who would invite me to everything. My nephews and nieces' birthday parties, every little thing I would receive an invitation. And one sibling who would invite me to nothing. So I didn't necessarily take it personally. They both knew that I was not going to fly in from Israel for a birthday party. But I agree, it's nice to extend an invitation and give the person a choice. And when we got married in Israel and invited all of our family from America, I didn't expect almost anyone to come. And we were surprised by some people who did make the trip out to Israel and made a vacation out of it and came to our wedding. So it's nice to give the person a choice and extend the invitation.
Yeah. Ron.
I will say, parenthetically, we were actually just invited some friends of ours who, fortunately or unfortunately, you can take your pick, has 3 children getting married in the span of 1 year.
Oh, gosh. Oh,
Yeah. So we have tried hard to at least go to one of them
yeah.
in New York. It's not that far, but it's expensive and so. But the one thing I know halachically you should not do is don't invite someone who you wouldn't want there if they came.
We're going to talk about that a little bit later. God.
Invite them even if you think they may not come or can't come or won't come, but don't invite them hoping they won't. That's rude.
You beat me to the point. Well said. That's correct. You cannot invite someone you are hoping won't actually come. In other words, if you invite them, expect there's a chance they might show up. And when they do, don't be surprised. Yeah, Judy, go ahead.
I agree with Dan. He invited them, and also the matter of feeling you belong to this group, and it makes you happy when you're a part of family or friends.
Yes, whether they come or not, it gives them a sense of feeling like they belong. And that's very important, to make people feel like they belong. Other comments? Ken, yeah.
In the case where one might feel that you're begging for gifts and things like that, I say, own the greed and let them worry about you.
Own the greed and let them worry about Jewish guilt. You know, I will tell you this story, which is parenthetical to all of this, and I'd planned on bringing up today before my Devar Torah a little later, which is there was a friend of mine, and when I was spending my year in Israel, he started to date somebody new for the first time. And I went to him, and he was after his date, and he said he was very torn about the girl. He was not sure whether he should continue on. And I said to him, she's fabulous. Everything you're telling me about this girl is perfect. You should marry her. Well, he did, okay? And he credited me as that, and that night in our conversation as sort of convincing him to move forward with that particular relationship. He and his wife sent me a note, and they said, we want to invite you to our wedding, and here's why. If it weren't for you, we probably would not be getting married. But we are not doing this so that you send us a gift. We just want you to feel included. So did I buy them a gift? Yes, of course I bought them a gift, right? And more to the point was I feel like I got a notch on my heaven scale, right? It's 3 matches you make, and you make your way up. So all of that in mind, any other answers or people want to chime in? Anybody for the other side why you shouldn't invite somebody to a party? Who wants to play? Yeah, go ahead. Daria. And when in doubt, don't leave them out. Yeah, Barry, and then Miriam.
Over 50 years ago, I did not invite the rabbi of my congregation, who I adored, to come to a small simcha at my house for my bar mitzvah, because I knew he wouldn't be able to come, and to ask him to consider coming to be there.
Okay. Fair? I take that, yeah.
Just to be aware on wedding planning, my sister got married, her mother kept telling my mother, oh, invite these people, they won't come. Invite these people, they won't come. Like 30 people, and they all came, and my mother was really angry. So take it with a grain of salt when you hear it from another family.
For those of you at home, Miriam was saying that her mother invited, kept saying, oh, don't worry, don't invite them, they won't come, and then they all came. So you just have to be careful about who you invite. You never know whether they're going to come or not. And as Ron pointed out, halachically, don't invite somebody who you think is not going to come because you don't know they might come. And that's what we're going to talk about a little bit later, whether it's on accident or on purpose, when we talk about Tisha B'Av after the 7th Aliyah. And with that, back, Josh, yeah. Okay, I'm going first. So now we're going to finish the third part in our series, and we're going to read about a party that someone was invited to accidentally. And we're going to talk about what that means and its implications are for the Jewish people and for all of Jewish history. But first, just a quick recap. The holiday, although holiday is certainly more of an upbeat word, that we're going to be marking next week is Tisha B'Av, following Motzei Shabbat, the end of Shabbat. Tisha B'Av is a day of universal Jewish tragedy, but most famously it is the day when both temples, or around thereabouts, both temples in Jerusalem were destroyed. The first one by the Babylonians in the year 586 before the Common Era, the second one by the Romans in the 70 of the Common Era. And this story tells the story of the destruction of the Second Temple, and it all has to do with a party invitation, which is why I started asking before. I think there are some copies making their way around. You can follow around with the story. If you don't have it, just listen in on the mic, and I'll read it out loud together. And as the Gemara tells us, Akamsa uvar kamsa charuv Yerushalayim. The Gemara, or the Talmud, explains that Jerusalem was destroyed on account of Kamsa and Bar Kamsa. So who were Kamsa and Bar Kamsa? This, as there was a certain man whose friend was named Kamsa and whose enemy was named Bar Kamsa. So you had a guy whose good friend was Kamsa and Bar Kamsa was his not friend. I get that problem a lot. Your name is Dan. I know another guy named Dan, Happens every now and then. Anyway, this man made a large feast, and he went to his servant, and he said, "Go bring me my friend, Kamsa." The servant went and mistakenly brought him his enemy, Bar Kamsa. So if you were in this position and you were the host of the party and you saw the wrong guy had showed up to the party invite, not the person you had wanted, how might you have responded? How would any dignified person have responded? This isn't the movie Wedding Crashers, right? What might you have done? Sorry, I heard Bob? Ignore it. Right? You would have let the guy show up, have his piece, probably not made a big deal about it, even if he was your enemy. Now, of course, what is Bar Kamsa perhaps thinking by this invitation? And that, friends, is the key, I think, to unlocking this whole story. What is Bar Kamsa thinking here? It was an olive branch for peace. Look what good a party invitation can create when giving it to somebody unexpectedly. Look how good you can make a person feel. When you don't give someone a party invitation because you say, I know they're not going to come. I don't want to obligate them to bring a gift. Or I know they're not going to come. It's Shabbos, the rabbi's not going to walk, whatever, or vice versa, whatever it is, right? You make that person feel the opposite. You don't make that olive branch of peace. You potentially miss that opportunity. And so what happens here, of course, is the man thinks it's an olive branch for peace. He shows up at the party, but this is no ordinary person we have throwing this party. Ata ashkechei dehava yativ amarle. The man who was hosting the feast came and found Bar Kamsa sitting at the feast. And the host said to Bar Kamsa, "The man is the enemy of that man. You are my enemy. What then do you want here? Arise and leave." In other words, anybody here ever get kicked out of a party before? He's kicking him out of a party. He's literally throwing him out of a party. Bar Kamsa said to him, "Since I have already come," realizing what has then transpired, probably feeling bad enough about himself, realizing he wasn't the one who was supposed to be invited. "I've already come, let me stay, and I will give you money for whatever I eat and drink. Just do not embarrass me by sending me out of the party." Do not embarrass me. Now again, if you are any normal host, what do? You take the cash. You feel awful. Maybe you're a horrible host, you take the cash, right? Maybe you feel awful. How could you do that? How could you send somebody out who just doesn't want to be embarrassed? He sees this, what it is, he kicks him out. But the host says to him, "No, you must leave." Then Bar Kamsa says something else. He says, "I will give you money for up to half the feast. Just do not send me away." Danny, ever have that offer from somebody before? "I'll pay for half the party"? Doesn't happen. There you go. And you're on your third already. There you go, right? Not in 1 year, though. Just let me stay. No, you must leave, he says, and of course you see where this is going. I will give you money for the whole party. Just let me stay. No, you must leave. The host took Bar Kamsa by hand. Think about how degrading that is. So it's not like he just walks out on himself and can even make an excuse and says, oh, I had to leave early, something came up. By taking the man by his hands and escorting him out, what's he letting everyone know around the room? That he is single-handedly kicking him out of the room. And of course, after there was that feast, Bar Kamsa said to himself, since the Rabbanan Yatvi, since the Rabbanan, the rabbis were sitting there and did not protest the actions of the host, and they saw me humiliated, they must have been content with what he did. Here too is contained a very beautiful lesson, tangential of this lesson of hosting, which is what lesson? Silence is complicity. That's right. If you stay silent when something terrible has happened, people will assume that you agree with what has happened. Okay? And that's what the rabbis did. So then, the rest of the story, I'll just kind of gloss over here. The man informs against them to the Roman emperor. He says, the Jews have rebelled against you. You are sending them offerings to the temple they are not accepting. And Bar Kamsa goes so far as to take a knife and to defect himself the offering so it is not accepted. And the Romans agree and say, you know what? Here's the story. The Jews are rebelling against us. They're not accepting the offerings we are sending to the temple, right? And therefore, we must destroy the Jews and their temple and crush their rebellion. And that's how the temple was destroyed in Jerusalem. Friends, if I could take a lesson for this for all of us today, it is certainly more than anything else the notion of being inclusive in the times in which we live. One of the expressions that I hated more than anything during the pandemic was the phrase social distancing. Because we shouldn't have been socially distancing from each other, we should have been physically distancing from one another. But what has happened 3 years into this pandemic is we have now isolated ourselves from caring about other people in the way that we should. We've limited the number of people who come to our simchas because of safety reasons. That I understand. But we need to get back into the habit of making people feel included in everything that we do. Even it's to say the following, it's to send an invitation and say, look, I'm not having so many people come to my kid's bar mitzvah party. But I want you to know you can watch it online, and I want you to be included. I want you to be a part of the simcha. That's something you can do to make people feel included. Even if you're not going to come to the party, to say to somebody, you know, I want you to feel like you're a part. Don't bring a gift. I just want you to be a part and let you know I was thinking of you. We have got to get more in the habit of doing that as a community, as the pandemic begins to abate a little bit, as we feel more comfortable, and making people feel welcome, because that's how we build the temple new, from scratch. If the temple was destroyed because of someone not being invited to a party, imagine how much power we create and give to ourselves when we include people and make them feel part of our family and our simchas together. Shabbat shalom.